as close as possible. Okay. Just basically speak into the mic. I can raise it up if you want.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ياسين والقرآن الحكيم إنك لمن المرسلين على صراط مستقيم تنزيل العزيز الرحيم لتنذر قوما ما أنذر آباؤهم فهم غافلون لقد حق القول على أكثرهم فهم لا يؤمنون إنا جعلنا في أعناقهم أغلالا فهي إلى الأذقان فهم مقمحون وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فأغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون وسواء عليهم أنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون إنما تنذر من اتبع الذكر وخشي الرحمن بالغيب فبشرهم بمغفرة وأجر كريم إنا نحن نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما قدموا وآثارهم وكل شيء أحصيناهم في إمام مبين واضرب لهم مثلا أصحاب القرية إذ جاءها المرسلون إذ أرسلنا إليهم اثنين فكذبوهما فعززنا بثالث فقالوا إنا إليكم مرسلون قالوا ما أنتم إلا بشر مثلنا وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء إن أنتم إلا تكذبون قالوا ربنا يعلم إنا إليكم لمرسلون وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين قالوا إنا تطيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم وليمسنكم منا عذاب أليم قالوا طائركم معكم أئن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون أأتخذ من دونه آلهة إن يردني الرحمن بضر لا تغني عني شفاعتهم شيئا ولا ينقذون إني إذا لفي ضلال مبين إني آمنتم بربكم فاسمعون قيل ادخل الجنة قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين وما أنزلنا على قومه من بعدهم من جند من السماء وما كنا منزلين إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم خامدون يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيهم من رسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون ألم يروا كم أهلكنا قبلهم من القرون أنهم إليهم لا يرجعون وإن كل لما جميع لدينا محضرون وآية لهم الأرض الميتة أحييناها وأخرجنا منها حبا فمنه يأكلون وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وأعناب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من ثمره وما عملت أيديهم أفلا يشكرون سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون وآية لهم الليل نسلخ منه النهار فإذا هم مسلمون والشمس تجري لمستقر لها ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم والقمر قدرناه منازل حتى عاد كالأرجون القديم لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون وآية لهم أنا حملنا ذريتهم في الفلك المشحون وخلقنا لهم من مثله ما يركبون وإن نشأ نغرقهم فلا صريخ لهم ولا هم ينقذون إلا رحمة منا ومتاعا إلى حين وإذا قيل لهم اتقوا ما بين أيديكم وما خلفكم لعلكم ترحمون وما تأتيهم من آية من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها محرزين وإذا قيل لهم أنفقوا مما رزقكم الله قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا أنطعم من لو يشاء الله أطعمه إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين ما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة تأخذهم وهم يخصمون فلا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى أهلهم يرجعون ونفخ في الصور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينسلون قالوا يا ويلنا من بعثنا من مرقدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا محضرون فاليوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون إنا أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون هم وأزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون سلام قولا من رب رحيم وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أعهد إليكم يا بني آدم أن لا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم ولقد أزل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون ولو نشاء لطمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مزيا ولا يرجعون ومن نعمره ننكسه في الخلق أفلا يأكلون وما علمناه شعرا وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان حيا ويحق القول على الكافرين أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وذللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند محضرون فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون أولم يرى الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحيي الذي أنشأها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعلكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الحلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون صدق الله العلي العظيم. سورة مباركة الفاتحة.
اور محمد وآل محمد صلوات. کہتا تھا مسیب کے لرز تھی زمین سا، کہتے تھے رضا بتا جا ناگازا کے ہوا سامان مرتب، آئیے ندا آتے ہیں سو کانے جنا، زندان میں ایک پردہ کھچا حکم خدا سے، پردے میں مگر شور قیامت تھا بکا سے، آتی تھی صدا ایک ضعیفہ کی برابر، ہے بین جعفر بن جعفر، ہے میرے پوتے میرے بے کس میرے بے پر، 25 برس قید رہے وائے مقدر، بیداد بنی فاطمہ پر صبح مصائب، کنبہ میرا دنیا میں اجڑنے کو بسا ہے. محمد وآل محمد صلوات.
صلوا علی محمد وآل محمد. حسین الغریب الغریب الحسین، حسین الشہید الشہید الحسین، دہائی دہائی خدا را دہائی، یہ دشت بلا میں ہے کیسی تباہی، بہایا ہے کس نے یہ خون محمد، قیامت یہ ڈھائی ہے کس نے الہی،
جوانوں بزرگوں کو مارا گیا ہے، شہیدوں میں شامل ہے ننھا سپاہی، حسین الغریب الغریب الحسین، حسین الشہید الشہید الحسین۔ کیا جشن برپا یوں اہل حواس نے، شہیدوں کے لاشوں پہ ڈنکے بجائے، جلا ڈالے آل محمد کے خیمے، سکینہ کے منہ پر تماچے لگائے، جو بیمار تھا اس کا بستر نہ چھوڑا، نبی زادیوں پر بھی درے چلائے، حسین الغریب الغریب الحسین، حسین الشہید الشہید الحسین۔ اٹھی اپنے مرکز سے بنت محمد، سیاہ شب کی چادر میں چہرہ چھپا کر گئی کربلا میں، تو اس نے یہ دیکھا ہے بوسیدہ کرتے میں ایک لاش بے سر، بدن سارا تیروں سے چھنی پڑا ہے، لہو میں ہے ڈوبا لہو میں ہے ڈوبا ہوا ہے سارا پے کر، حسین الغریب الغریب الحسین، حسین الشہید الشہید الحسین۔ تڑپ کر وہ چلائی شبیر بیٹا، لہو میں نہائے ہو سر بھی جدا ہے، تبر کس نے مارے ہیں سارے بدن پر، یہ تیروں پہ کس نے جنازہ رکھا ہے، کہاں ہے میرا لال عباس بولو، میں پوچھوں گی اس سے یہ کیسے ہوا ہے، حسین الغریب الغریب الحسین، حسین الشہید شہید الحسین۔ صلو علی محمد وآل محمد۔
محمد وآل محمد صلوات۔ قرب میں بے رحمن زہر ہلا ہلدیاں، خرم میں بے رحم نے زہر ہلا ہلدیاں، زہر سے مارا گیا موسی کاظم غریب، تیرا برس قید تھے اور تھے بیمار بھی، تیرا برس قید تھے اور تھے بیمار بھی تھی نہ دوا بے خزاں موسی کاظم غریب لاشیں مقدس رہی جسر کے بغداد کے کوئی نہ پرسا ہوا موسی کاظم غریب آئی فلک سے صدا موسی کاظم غریب قتل ہوئے بے خطا موسی کاظم غریب محمد وآل محمد صلوات.
Sheikh Bilal, Dr. Dungarsi, respected others, brothers and sisters in Iman, Adam Allah ajurna wa ajurakum. Tonight's Tabarruk has been sponsored for the Ithalith Sawab for the following marhumeens: Marhum Ghulam Hussain and Marhuma Rukia Bai Rajab Ali, Marhum Mustafa and Marhuma Sharbanu Jafar, all marhumeen of Jafar family, marhumeen of Shirali Meji, marhumeen of Raza Pirbai family, Marhuma Nargis Alarkia, marhumeen of Abdul Hussain family, and all marhumeen of Ahmad Sharif and Tijani family. Al-Fatiha. On Wednesday, we will start our program for Miraj night at 8:15 p.m., starting with Surah Yasin, followed by Thursday's Shab-e Jummah program at 8:15, followed by Salatul Jummah on Friday, starting at 11:30 a.m. with Dua Nudba with Sheikh Bilal. On Saturday, as you've seen on the flyer through the newswire, we will be having the Ladies' Grand Milad and Bazaar. The Ladies' Bazaar starts at 12 p.m., followed by the Milad at 2 p.m. We will have Madrasa at 10:45 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. on Sunday, followed by on Monday we will be celebrating the Wiladat of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala. Starting at 6:30 p.m. with Niyaz, as well as the Shawat-e-Shadi Majlis of Sister Fatima Darcy of New Jersey to Brother Kumail Devji of Los Angeles. Tonight's Surah Yasin has also been sponsored for the Ithalith Thawab of the marhumeens that are displayed on the screen. Let us all recite Surah Fatiha for all marhumeen. Bismillah. Mu'mineen, we would like to inform you that the planning for the month of Mahi Ramadan is already underway. Please stay tuned for further announcements, including sign-ups for recitations. One important item is the iftar sponsorship. Please do consider sponsoring niyaz in the name of marhumin. We are inshallah planning to have iftar every evening during the month of Ramadan as we did last year, alhamdulillah. The target this year is 240,000, and as you know, mu'mineen, funds raised in the month of Mahir Ramadan and Muharram help sustain the programming of the center, and we are appealing to all our mu'mineen to please come forward to donate generously. We will be putting up the board soon, prior to the month of Ramadan. That way you can take a look and see which days are filled. Mu'mineen, we have been requested by Brother Sayyid O. Naqvi, the Executive Director of Asian American Affairs of Nassau County, of whom you all met last weekend, to appeal to our membership to participate in the upcoming elections for the seat vacated by George Santos of the 3rd Congressional District. All Muslim communities have been requested to participate in the upcoming elections and to go in masses this coming Saturday between 12 to 1 p.m., of which we will be meeting at Al-Mahdi Center in the parking lot and go together as a group to the polling stations. We need to send a strong message that Al-Mahdi Center is an enabler for participating in elections. Only those who never voted earlier in early voting or requested the absentee ballot. Lastly, please join me in reciting the ayah of Amma Yujib 5 times for all those who are sick here and around the world. Also, please keep in mind Brother Nisar Karmali, father of Brother Hussain Karmali, is scheduled for his open heart surgery tomorrow morning at 7:30 a.m. And we are asking all mu'mineen to remember him in your du'as, as well as Sister Sakina Ramtullah, daughter of Brother Riyaz Ramtullah, who is currently in the ICU and needs special care. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Amma yujibul mustarriza da'u wa yakshifu su. 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 Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Please recite a loud salawat for Sheikh Bilal. Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat.
رحم الله من يقرأ سورة الفاتحة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. الحمد لله رب العالمين، ثم الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم محمد. اللهم صل على وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين، واللعنة على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله تعالى في محكم كتابه الحكيم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. آمن الرسول بما أنزل إليه من ربه والمؤمنون كل آمن بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله لا نفرق بين أحد من رسله وقالوا سمعنا وأطعنا غفرانك ربنا وإليك المصير. آمنا بالله صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد. Your second salawat for love of Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. اللهم صل على محمد. And your loudest salawat as condolences to the master of our time, Sahibul Asri wal Zaman. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. The verse that we open our discussion with is the second to final verse of Surah Al-Baqarah. It's verse number 285. This verse says that the Prophet believes in what has been sent down to him from his Lord, and so do the believers. And they all believe in Allah, His angels, His books, and His messengers. They say, we make no difference between any of them. And they continue and they say, we hear and we obey. Our Lord, your forgiveness do we ask, and toward you is our destination. This verse, verse number 285, is one of the fundamental verses of the Aqeedah and the belief of Muslimin. In so much that today, if we believe that the Torah was the book of Allah, the book of Allah that's sent down on this earth, the Injil, the Zabur, were all books that were sent from Allah on this earth. It's one of the reasons that we believe this is the Quran has instructed us to be a Muslim, you have to believe this. The same thing, you'll never find a Muslim who turns around and says, Isa alayhi salam was not a prophet of Allah. Na'uzubillah. You'll never find a Muslim who says Musa was not a prophet of Allah. Ibrahim was not a prophet of Allah. No. All of these Anbiya, every Muslim will agree to, regardless of the importance that they hold in other faiths, that to be a Muslim is to believe in all of these Anbiya. And we can't be from amongst the Muslimin if we disagree on any of these topics. It has to be accepted. The same is true when we come to the A'imma alayhimus salam. You see, when Allah uses the word وَرُسُلِهِ and His messengers in this, it doesn't specifically mean the Anbiya who received a risala that was given to them, but rather anyone who is considered the authority of Allah on this earth is included in this position as being the messenger of Allah, وَرُسُلِهِ. So that means all of the Anbiya and all of the awliya who are in the position of authority on this earth, we agree with the authority that they possess, and we agree that they are representatives of Allah, and our faith is complete when we accept all of them. This is the condition that's being set in the second to final verse of Surah Baqarah. I reference the location because it's important to understand that when we want to define our aqeedah, there are places in the Quran where Allah has explained it very clearly. And our aqeedah here explains and says that a Muslim has to accept all of the messengers of Allah, all of His representatives on this earth, as well as all of the books that were revealed, all of His angels, and the fact that whatever the Prophet was given is authority over us. This discussion, once we accept someone as awliya of Allah, we are now forced to accept their position and to accept their status and title. It is in the context of this verse that we see an important conversation when someone writes a letter to our 8th Imam, Ali ibn Musa al-Ridha alayhi salam. When a group of the believers were debating and saying that we are told that the Islam of Abu Talib is questionable, is it necessary for us to debate or to accept that Abu Talib was a Muslim? And Imam Ridha writes back, one who doubts in the Islam of Abu Talib, his own Islam is doubtful. The power of the statement of Imam Ridha explains that Abu Talib was not just a normal person, but rather the acceptance of the authority of Abu Talib is a consideration in the sihha and the correctness of Islam. That the Abu Talib possessed a position where he was one of the inheritors, one of the successors. There's a debate amongst the ulama that says, was Abu Talib considered a successor of Ibrahim or of Isa, because Isa was the last one to receive a book? The overwhelming opinion is that Abu Talib was one of the awliya, one of the successors after Ibrahim alayhi salam, whose responsibility it was to preserve the true message of Allah in Hijaz. The question that people ask about the validity of his Islam is completely unfounded once you look upon the life of Abu Talib. That if we simply look at his biography, the reason we're mentioning this is that the 25th is the shahadat of our 7th Imam that we're coming to in our discussion, and the 26th is the shahadat of Abu Talib, both of which deserve mention. This Abu Talib, if you were to look at his biography, you would consider one who questions his Islam to be foolish. Who else goes out and defends the Prophet in such a way that he says, if you place the sun in one hand and the moon in the other, I would not give up my nephew. You could give me any amount of wealth, I would never leave him. Who takes a period and is exiled from his home, from his city, from his authority, simply because of his taking care of the Prophet. He is cast out into Sheikh Abi Talib. Who goes through in that period of time, while they are cast out of the city of Mecca, that it is reported and accepted, this is not a point of debate, that this Abu Talib every night, every few hours would move Rasulullah and put one of his sons in the bed of Rasulullah, such that the life of Rasulullah should not be in danger. Not one son, every son. There was no one more precious to him than Rasulullah, that you would say that no, he did not put this son in the bed of Rasulullah. He puts every son in that bed every night to ensure that no one would harm the Prophet. Look at how difficult the loss of Abu Talib is for Rasulullah, that after 13 years of service of Islam in the city of Mecca, it is the death of Abu Talib that makes Rasulullah leave the city of Mecca. Who then can question the character of such a person? Those who do not understand the significance of his character and have not studied his character to know what he sacrificed for the sake of Islam. Therefore, when we see the statement of Imam Rada that the one who questions the Islam of Abu Talib, his own Islam is questionable. The Imam is defending and saying that, O Muslimin, if you don't know the biography of Abu Talib, you have done a disservice to Rasulullah, you have done a disservice to the religion of Islam. Now, one great similarity between Abu Talib and Imam al-Kadhim is the way that they helped the religion of Islam persevere in times of difficulty. That Abu Talib is that one, that when all of the people were polytheists, he preserved the religion of Islam and protected the religion of Islam and the Holy Prophet. And that is such a great status that no one can take away from him. Similarly, our seventh Imam is an Imam through three periods of political change. The first is the fall of the Banu Umayyah. The second, the establishment of the Banu Abbas. And the third is the continuity of the governance of Banu Abbas. All three of these were phases of time in which Islam went through flux and difficulty and needed protection. When we look at the life of our seventh Imam, we can see his greatness and authority, and the effort he exerted in preserving this religion are the reason why he is known as Babul Hawa'ij. Babul Hawa'ij is that person through whom your hajat are answered. And his sacrifices for the sake of Islam is why Allah has given him this title, that O Muslimin, O Mu'mineen, should you find yourself in difficulty, this one has sacrificed for Islam what gives him the ability to intercede on your behalf in every one of your desires. With that, we'll mention these three phases of the life of the Imam and some of his attributes with your loudest of salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Our Imam's life begins in the year 128 after Hijrah in a place that is known as Abwa, which was a small village between Mecca and Medina. It's narrated that Imam Sadiq owned land in this place and owned gardens in this place, and when he proceeded to this place, our seventh Imam was born. The mother of our seventh Imam is a lady who was known to be a freed slave. Hamida or Humayda was her name, and she was known to be someone who was a slave and then freed, and she is known as al-Walad. One of the significances of the title of al-Walad is one of the fundamental differences in what's considered slavery in the West and slavery in Islam. Slavery in the West is described as this person became a piece of your property and they had no identity or existence outside of being a piece of property. Islamic system of slavery was very different, where, for example, you earned the ability of a person to do work, but you didn't own the person themselves. So, for example, a slave, outside of the time that they worked for you, had time of their own and had the right to work in that time on their own, earn their money, and earn their freedom. Islam had created a large variety of ways that freedom could be earned for a slave, including one of those aspects that if a lady had been a slave and became the property, or became ma malakat aymanuhum, as the Quran describes, what the right hand possesses, and she had a child, with her husband that became her husband through ma malakat aymanuhum, that child would be the reason by which, when the child's father passed, that woman is no longer a slave and she is known as Ummul Walad. If you look in history, what's interesting, our 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th Imam, all of their mothers are referred to as Ummul Walad. Meaning they were all ladies who were purchased out of slavery and then married to the A'imma alayhimus salam, and eventually they were the mothers of the Imams. There's a discussion about why this is a significant point in the history of the A'imma and the history of Islam. One of the fundamental explanations of this is to say that the Ahlul Bayt were people who broke racism in every instance they could. Which is why the best of society married what society considered to be the lowest level of society, and showed that the Imam, who was the authority over all of humanity, was not restricted because his mother was not someone from the best of society. People didn't look at the religiosity of an individual when they chose marriage. They looked at the nasl and the nasab and the family and made decisions upon this. And the A'imma alayhimus salam wanted to break this tradition, which is why you see that each of the mothers of the Imams were from those ladies who would otherwise be considered the lowest class of society. Now, this is not to say that there was anything wrong with their character. Rather, instead, we see that each of these ladies, whether we look at Hamida, we look at Samana, we look at Tuqtam, we look at Narjis, whatever mother we look at, we see that their piety was exemplary. Their character was from the best. They were from the nobility of their clans, but that they were treated as if they were the worst of the society, because in the Arab tradition, they were considered to be of the lowest caliber. But Islam demonstrated that their status was great because of their piety, which is why Allah says in the Quran, and this was a proof of it, Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum, that the best amongst you is the most pious amongst you, which is what the Ahlul Bayt demonstrated in this process. In the first 4 years of the life of our Imam is the time of the Banu Umayyah. There's no one who disagreed that Banu Umayyah were the worst of society, and even that society, the Banu Umayyah referred to in the Quran, is Shajaratil Mal'un, that the accursed tree is that family of the Banu Umayyah, and even the Ahl Sunnah Mufassirin agree there is truth to this. At the fall, at the age of 4, is when the time of the establishment or the break in the system of Khilafat happens. When this happens is when we're seeing the door of our 6th Imam to be free to teach as he likes. And we see the flourishing of the religion of Islam at the end of the Banu Umayyah and in the period of conflict between the parties fighting for authority. Which is why the youth of Imam Musa ibn Ja'far is spent in the process of teaching and learning Islam. Our Imam spends the first 20 years of his life under the care of his father, our 6th Imam Ja'far ibn Muhammad as-Sadiq alayhi salam. During this time period, it was not unknown who the next Imam was going to be. Rather, we saw Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq show many times where Imamat was going to go. Whether we see the hadith when the companions come and they say, Yabna Rasulullah, who will be the authority after you? In one instance, we see Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq say, this son of mine has worn the armor and it has fit him perfectly. This was an explanation to say that the armor of Rasulullah is one of the tabarrukat that is in the possession of the Imam of the time. And that the explanation of who the next Imam will be is the one who wears the armor of Rasulullah and it fits him perfectly, and only him, no one else. Other instances we see our 6th Imam explain and say that if you have any question about the book of Allah, this son of mine knows everything in the Quran, مَا كَانَ بَيْنَ دَفَّتَيْن, what is between the two covers of the Quran, وَيُجَاوِبُكُمْ بِعِلْمٍ, and he will answer you with knowledge about any question that you have. And Imam Musa al-Kadhim was a young boy. The answer of Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq is very interesting. That he says that my son is the one who knows whatever is between the two covers of the Quran, and he will answer you with knowledge. This is something different. A mufassir, an alim of the Quran, does not answer you with knowledge. He answers you with an opinion. And he could be right and he could be wrong. When we open the Quran and we read what Allah has revealed to us in this Quran, there are many things that can be interpreted differently, and a mufassir or an alim presents you his opinion of what is written, and he could be right, he could be wrong. The statement of Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq shows that this son of mine answers you with knowledge, not with his opinion, meaning that what he possesses is the knowledge that is inspired by Allah of the absolute truth in the Quran, and no one other than an Imam can give you this information. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allah salli ala Muhammad. But not only was this process by which Imam Sadiq showed the superiority of Imam Musa Kadhim in his youth, but rather in other instances as well too, where you see, for example, someone like Abu Hanifa, Nu'man, who used to study under our sixth Imam, who made the statement, Lawla sanatan la halakatin Nu'man, that had it not been for the 2 years that I spent with Ja'far as-Sadiq, I would have been destroyed. Even he narrates, I went once to see the sixth Imam, Ja'far ibn Muhammad. I could not find him available. I found in his house a young man, a young boy, ghulam, meaning that he had not broken the age of puberty yet. He says, I could not find Ja'far as-Sadiq, so I saw this boy. I said, you are from the children of Ja'far as-Sadiq, maybe you can answer my question. Abu Hanifa asks him a question of fiqh, and the answer is very clear and very well structured. So Abu Hanifa proceeds further and he says, oh boy, let me ask your opinion about a question that we are stuck upon in society and we debate constantly. Who is responsible when a person commits a sin? This discussion about who is responsible when a person commits a sin begins in society on a larger scale after the shahadat of Imam Hussain. Because the killers of Imam Hussain and the Banu Umayyah popularized the idea that we didn't do it, Allah made us do it. The argument was, we didn't do it, Allah made us do it. It's Allah's fault. This same argument was used actually after the Battle of Siffin. You see, Ammar ibn Yasir, Rasulullah had given a prophecy about Ammar, that the one who kills Ammar will be mal'oon. Ammar ibn Yasir in Siffin fights for Imam Ali and is killed. When this news comes out and the prophecy and the reminder of Rasulullah becomes presented among society, Amr ibn As is sitting with Muawiyah, and when someone comes and says, oh Muawiyah, you have killed Ammar ibn Yasir, you are the accursed one that Rasulullah warned us against. Muawiyah says, no, I didn't kill him, Ali killed him. Had Ali not brought him to the battlefield, he would not have been killed. What you are talking about is Ali, not me. The problem is not with me, it is with Ali. His own general, Amr ibn As, laughs. Muawiyah says, General, why are you laughing? Remember, Amr ibn As was a strategist of Siffin. He was the clever, conniving one of the Battle of Siffin. Amr ibn As says, oh Muawiyah, if Ali is responsible for the death of Ammar, then Rasulullah must be responsible for the death of Hamza, because Hamza was brought to the Battle of Uhud by Rasulullah, and closes the mouth of Muawiyah. But after the shahadat of Imam Hussain, the people had been lost in knowledge and had no information. So when it became popular to say that we did not kill Hussain, Allah killed him, Allah wanted him to be killed and therefore it was done, the example was to say that man has no control over his actions, he only does what Allah wants him to do. This philosophical question is what Abu Hanifa is posing to Imam Musa ibn Ja'far as a child in the house of Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq. And he says, what's your opinion, oh boy, about the sin that a man commits? Whose fault is it? Imam Musa Kadhim, as a boy, answers him and he says, oh Abu Hanifa, this question has three possible answers. One is that Allah is responsible. Two, that man is responsible. And three, that both of them are responsible together. He says, now as for the consideration that Allah is responsible for the sin that a man commits, and Allah is the one who forces him. If Allah is the one who forces a man to commit a sin, then he is wrong to punish a man by sending him to hell. And if that is the case, then Allah's description of hell and insisting that a people will go to hell is a lie, because Allah is the one who forces all of these things to happen, and the entire religion is a lie, because how can Allah be just, how can Allah be fair, if He makes you do a crime and then He punishes you for the crime? He says the second possibility is that Allah and the man are partners in the committing of a sin. That some of it comes from the will of Allah, some of it comes from the will of man. And that the will of man and the will of God are joined, and the two are partners in the committing of sin. That Allah allows him to do it, Allah says, go and do it, and the man completes it. He says, if this was the case, and the two of these are partners in the action, then it is wrong and inappropriate that the weaker of the two partners should be punished, and the stronger of the two partners should go free. That certainly in this case, Allah is the stronger of the two partners. Allah is the Khaliq, Allah is the Raziq. If Allah is the partner of man in this action, then it is wrong that the weaker one should be punished and the stronger one gets away. Therefore we say that Allah and man are not partners in a sin. Otherwise again it is wrong for the man to be punished and Allah not to be punished. Aw Aba Hanifa. The only correct truth is that man alone is responsible when he commits a sin. And this is why Allah has promised hell and promised punishment in the hereafter for the committance of sins. This complete answer of resolving this issue and pointing out that one who blames Allah is completely wrong because it violates the entire religion was the way in which Imam Musa ibn Ja'far as a child was going through the process of teaching what the true intellectual logical thought of the religion of Islam was. In this way the Imam participated in the process of the teaching of the religion even in the time of Mansur, who had began the persecution of the Shi'as in this time to help establish his authority as a leader of the Banu Abbas. They describe at the age of 20, when Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq becomes shaheed and martyred by Mansur, Mansur wants to finish the lineage of Ahl al-Bayt, wants to wipe out the children of Bibi Fatima, so he gives instruction to his governor of Medina. He says to him that Ja'far as-Sadiq, if he has presented and chosen any successor for him, kill that successor immediately. Don't let the affair continue. And the governor of Medina replies, Mansur, I can't do that. Because Ja'far as-Sadiq left a will in which he left 5 successors. The first of whom is you, Mansur. The second of whom is me. The third is a lady, Hamida. The fourth is his son, Abdullah al-Aftah. And the fifth is Musa al-Kadhim. Now the situation comes that the brilliance of Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq protects the life of Imam Musa al-Kadhim and shows the Shia where the authority lies after him when it is unsafe to publicly declare the imamate of Imam Musa al-Kadhim. In this situation, what happens is the Shia come to the conclusion, it can't be a dhalim, that casts out the governor of Medina, that casts out Mansur. The imam of the time can't be a lady, that casts out Hamida. It leaves Abdullah al-Aftah, and it leaves Imam Musa al-Kadhim. There are 2 explanations of how the Shia come to the conclusion of where the true authority of Allah lied. The first says that if Abdullah was the successor of the Imam, there was no point in mentioning Imam Musa al-Kadhim. The fact that Imam Musa al-Kadhim, the younger brother, is mentioned implies and teaches us that the authority of Abdullah al-Aftah was incorrect. The other explanation that comes is Abdullah al-Aftah. Aftah means one who has a club foot, one who cannot walk correctly, has a problem in his foot. And we know that an imam is complete both in physical form and intellect, and therefore Abdullah al-Aftah couldn't have been the imam of the time, and therefore the Shia turned to Imam Musa al-Kadhim and recognized his authority as the imam of the time. However, this didn't mean that this was an easy time. Because of the flux, there were many people who claimed and came with the authority of saying that imamate had shifted and gone away from Imam Musa al-Kadhim. And yet our imam proceeded to teach people through the signs and miracles of his imam. In one such instance, when a group of people come and they are unsure of the imamate, they say, if you are the imam, show us a miracle to demonstrate your authority. It's described that Imam Musa al-Kadhim in this instance motioned to a tree the same way that Rasulullah motioned to a tree. And the tree came forward, bared witness to the shahadat of La ilaha illallah, bared witness to the shahadat of Muhammad Rasulullah, and bear witness to the wilaya and authority of Imam Musa ibn Ja'far al-Kadhim alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. This period is known as the establishment of the Khilafat of Banu Umayyah. The first 13 or 14 years, or the first actually 11 years of the imamate of Imam Musa ibn Ja'far is the establishment of the Banu Abbas and the time of Mansur. In this time, one of the things that the imam does is he pushes his followers into political positions within the government of the Banu Abbas. This process begins at this time and continues through the Dawr of Harun, which is the 11 years of Mansur, the 10 years of Mahdi and the 14 years of Harun's Khilafat, we see the Imam continuously pushing his Shia into positions of political authority. This is not to say that the Imam was ever absent from politics, but look and understand that as the Banu Abbas are establishing their government and they're looking for governors to replace the people of Banu Umayyah, and the Banu Umayyah were incredibly hated at this point in time. So much so that if a follower of Banu Umayyah, even if he spoke the truth and said what was right, he would still be persecuted and killed for being a follower of the Banu Umayyah. They had no position or authority. Therefore, the governance that was being established had to involve and fit new people into the government. And Imam Musa al-Kadhim pushed the Shia forward to take these positions to guide and support and protect the Shia of the time. Two of the very famous examples of this pushing forward into the positions of politics are one, Ali ibn Yaqtin. Ali ibn Yaqtin winds up being in Harun's time the wazir of the Khalifa and the holder of the Khatm Khilafat, meaning the seal of Khilafat, the complete authority over society, who executed the commands of the government and established the government, was Ali ibn Yaqtin, a Shia of ours, a Shia of Imam al-Kadhim. When he wants to refuse this position, Imam al-Kadhim says you must take this position, and insists that he takes it and commands him that as you take this position, you have one responsibility: to help and protect the Shia. Imam al-Kadhim famously makes a statement. He says, "Adman li wahid wa adman laka thalath." Guarantee me one thing, O Ali ibn Yaqtin, and I will guarantee you three things. He says to Ali ibn Yaqtin, guarantee me that no Shia will ever leave you despondent, or that you will ever be in a position to help a Shia and you will refuse. Guarantee me you will never do that, and I will guarantee you three things. One, that your neck will never be cut for being a Shia. Two, you will never experience to be in the experience of going to prison for being in this position. And three, that you will never experience a moment of poverty if you complete this action. Some of the other narrations of this exact same hadith go even further to say that the Imam guarantees Ali ibn Yaqtin Jannah on the day of judgment for the act of preserving the Shia. The Imam promotes this aspect of going out and serving and working with the politics, but with the intention that you have an obligation to help your Shia. You have an obligation to help those who love Ahlul Bayt. And if you fulfill this, you can fulfill this position. Which is why there are many narrations between Ali ibn Yaqtin and Imam al-Kadhim. Some of them, for example, are where the Imam is preserving the life of Ali ibn Yaqtin. Two famous examples of the... You guys are okay? We'll give a couple minutes. Stories? Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. One instance, the Khalifa Harun gives a variety of gifts to Ali ibn Yaqtin. Ali, when he receives them, immediately sends them to Imam Musa al-Kadhim. And he says, I have no authority over this because this was taken from the people unjustly. It goes to the true rightful authority. And oh Imam, this is all given to you. The Imam takes a jubba, a coat that is in there, and sends it back to Ali ibn Yaqtin and says, hold on to this. This will benefit you and it is your responsibility to preserve this. Ali, after this, takes this coat out from a very safe place and kisses it every day that the Imam gave it back to him and said, you have to protect it. One day it happens that one of the people seeking favor with Harun says, this wazir of yours, this leader of yours, Ali is a liar, is a Shia, he's against you, he's someone who is not for your support. And he says, I know this because whatever gifts you give to this Ali ibn Yaqtin, he sends to Musa al-Kadhim. So Harun calls Ali ibn Yaqtin to his court and he says, oh Ali, I gave you a coat that was very special, what did you do with it? Ali says, I have it. Harun says, where do you have it? He says, I have it in my house in such and such lock box. It is in this position and you can go have it sent from there. A man goes to the house of Ali ibn Yaqtin, brings back that box. It is opened in the court of Harun. Harun sees the coat and says that whoever speaks against you from now on, O Ali, is a liar and certainly you are one of our followers. In this way, Imam Musa al-Kadhim preserves his life. In another instance, Ali ibn Yaqtin writes a letter to Imam Musa al-Kadhim. And he says, Yabna Rasulullah, we have a debate amongst us, the Shia, of how it is that masa should be done. Should it be wiping? Should it be washing? What is the process? Imam Musa al-Kadhim writes him a letter and he describes to him the way of doing wudu that is absolutely against the teachings of Ahlul Bayt. meaning wash your arm from the front to the back, wash your entire head and behind your ears, wash your feet. Ali ibn Yaqtin never questions the command of the Imam that he wrote him in the letter and begins to perform his wudu in the fashion that Imam Musa ibn Ja'far has described in his letter. It happens that one day as he's doing his wudu in this exact fashion, Harun again has been told that Ali is a liar, and Harun is hiding in the private chambers of Ali ibn Yaqtin. And he watches Ali ibn Yaqtin in his own privacy doing wudu. And he sees Ali do wudu the way the Ahl Sunnah do it, not in the way that Madhab Ja'fari does. And from behind the curtain, without Ali knowing, he calls out and says, "Certainly you are one of us, certainly you are one of us. I shall never believe a lie against you." And he steps out from behind the curtain. Ali ibn Yaqtin is surprised to see the Khalifa standing behind his curtain. And the Khalifa now leaves. Once the Khalifa leaves and is certain of the loyalty of Ali ibn Yaqtin, a messenger knocks on the door and a letter is presented from Imam Musa al-Kadhim. In this letter from Imam Musa al-Kadhim, he says, "Now Ali, that the danger has been averted, I want you to do wudu like this." And the way that we do wudu today, one of the proofs that we have that we are doing wudu correctly is this letter from Imam Musa ibn Ja'far to Ali ibn Yaqtin that impacts how we do wudu even till today. In this way, Ali was still a part of the religion and a responsibility and was one of the teachers of how we got access to information and fulfilled his responsibility to the Imam of the time. But there are examples as well that teach us that not everything Ali did was perfect. In one instance, it's reported that Ali ibn Yaqtin comes to the event of Hajj, comes to Medina to visit the Imam, and the servant of the Imam tells Ali from the door, "The Imam does not want to see you." For 3 days, Ali comes to see Imam Musa al-Kadhim. For 3 days, he's refused entry to see Imam al-Kadhim. On the 3rd day, after he's refused entry, when he comes back again, the Imam says, "Come and see me now. I refuse to see you because you disrespected one of our Shia who came to you with a need and you did not fulfill his need." Ali, realizing that he's committed a cardinal sin against what he was told to do, says, "Oh Yabna Rasulullah, how shall I correct this affair?" The Imam says, "When you step outside and you go to such and such place, you will be back in the city of Kufa. Go to the house of this person and seek their forgiveness. If they forgive you, then I will forgive you." So sure enough, Ali ibn Yaqtin steps out, follows the instruction of the Imam, and he's instantly back in Kufa. He knocks on the door of this person, and it's reported and says that the person comes to the door, says, "What business do you have with me? I have no business with you. You are the wazir of Harun." Ali ibn Yaqtin says, "No, I have come because I need something from you." He says, "What do you need from me?" He says, "I need your forgiveness." He says, "There, I forgave you." He says, "No. That is the forgiveness you give to the wazir of the Khalifa. I need the forgiveness that you give to the Shia of Imam Musa al-Kadhim." He says, "Oh Ali, how shall I give you that forgiveness?" Look at the value of what a mu'min holds in the eyes of Allah. Remember the status of Ali ibn Yaqtin, the wazir, he's the top of the country. Ali ibn Yaqtin says, "I will put my face on the ground, and when my cheek touches the ground, I want you to put your other foot on my face. And then I want you to forgive me. Because I didn't respect your desire when you came to me. I have no way of showing my shame and my sorrow for not treating you fairly and fulfilling your need. I can't go back to face my Imam until I'm certain of your forgiveness. And that cannot be possible because I gave you a position of disgrace. Until I face a greater disgrace, I cannot give you the right or accept that you have forgiven me." This mu'min puts his foot on the face of Ali ibn Yaqtin. Then Ali returns and asks the Imam, "Have you forgiven me?" Imagine how often it is that we disrespect one another. We don't value each other. We don't consider the position that one of us has as a Shia of Ahlul Bayt. And look at how Ali ibn Yaqtin, the extremity he has to go to seek back the reward and the respect that he wants to have with Ahlul Bayt. Which is one of the important lessons that we learn from the example of Ali ibn Yaqtin. One of the other people who was placed forward was known as Safwan al-Jammal. Safwan al-Jammal being the one, Jamal is one who rents camels. Safwan had thousands of camels from which he would rent hundreds of camels to the Khalifa of the time. Imam Kadhim, when he meets this Safwan, he says, Safwan, everything you do is excellent except for one thing. He says, Ibn Rasulullah, what is that one thing? He says, this process of lending camels to the Khalifa. Safwan says, Ya Ibn Rasulullah, I only lend him camels to go to Hajj, nothing else. He doesn't do any politics with my camels, he doesn't go to war, he does nothing else except go to Hajj. Imam Kadhim explains to him in this way. He says, Oh Safwan, when he leaves, he takes your property with him. Yes? Do you want your property back? Safwan says, yeah. Do you pray your property comes back to you safely? He says, yes. He says, in this way you pray for the zalim to continue living. Because your property will not be returned to you unless if Harun brings it back to you. Safwan says, done. He sells off all of his camels and gets rid of his entirety of his business. The next year when Harun comes and says, Oh Safwan, I want to rent your camels for Hajj. Safwan says, Oh Khalifa, forgive me, I have sold off that business, I have no more camels. Safwan says, what do you mean? He says, I'm an old man now, this business is too difficult for me, I've gotten rid of it. Harun immediately knows, he says, you didn't do this because of your old age, I know why you did this. It's because of your loyalty and significance to the Imam. The same is true for us in the sense of taking the lesson that how many of us consider the pleasure of the Imam in the business that we perform? How many of us consider that if the Imam today told us that your income I'm not happy with, how many of us would take it seriously enough that we would change our entire profession and leave our profession for the sake of the Imam? Many times we consider when we teach our children, when we think ourselves, what's a good profession? We think of what's the money. We don't think of what's the hilliyat in the eyes of Allah. What's the righteousness in the eyes of Allah? Is this dollar I'm earning good in the sake of Allah? Would Allah be pleased with me? And should we find out otherwise, do we pay attention and change our business? Or do we say, what can I do now? I'm already taking my money from here. We fear poverty and penury at times instead of fearing the anger of Allah in our actions. Here both Safwan and the Imam are teaching that to pray for the zalim, to wish that the zalim persists so that I continue my benefit, is a sign of an action that a mu'min performs that the Imam does not love. And we should be careful of this. We'll end very quickly, inshallah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. In this way, the Imam continues preaching through the establishment of the Banu Abbas until eventually the Banu Abbas, when they're established and they want to persist, they know that their persistence is on the basis of the persecution of the Ahlul Bayt. Why? Because the Banu Abbas seek their authority on their proximity to the Holy Prophet, and the children of Zahra are closer to Rasulullah than anyone else. Which is why when Harun comes to the ziyarat of Rasulullah, he says, Salamu alayka ya ibn Am. Salamu alaykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. He says, Oh, salam be upon you, Ya Rasulullah, O son of my uncle. In the same instance, Imam Musa al-Kadhim, he comes and he says, Salamu alayka ya jaddi. Salamu alaykum, my grandfather. Harun says, what's the real difference between us? There is no difference. We are both cousins. Imam Musa al-Kadhim says to him, Oh Harun, today if the Prophet came and asked for your daughter's hand in marriage, what would you say? Harun says, I would be honored to be the father-in-law of Rasulullah. I would be honored that he takes my daughter in marriage. Imam Musa al-Kadhim says, and that is the difference between you and I, that while you would be honored by this action, for me it would be forbidden, because he is my father, my daughter is his mahram. He would never come to my house in marriage because I am his son. Harun cannot bear this action and looks for an excuse to eventually imprison the Imam. There are 14 years of the life of Imam al-Kadhim that are spent in prison. The final time was 4 years and 6 months when Harun sent him from prison to prison to prison. When this final imprisonment began, they described that Imam Musa al-Kadhim would pray to Allah and say, Ya Allah, I thank you for the freedom, that I wanted to have the freedom to worship you as you deserve to be worshipped, and you have given me that freedom and removed the obligations from me. But they say that as the Imam went from prison to prison, he eventually ended in the prison of Sindi ibn Shahiq Mal'un. Sindhi oppressed and abused the Imam so much. They describe and say the cell in which the Imam was kept was in the basement of the basement of the basement, and was a well that had been dried out. The entrance and the exit of his prison was from the ceiling through a metal grate. You could not see the light of day in this place. The air would be so heavy in the summer because of the humidity, one could not breathe in. And it would become so cold and difficult in the winter that it was a place where again your breath would be lost from you. They gave the Imam a cell such that it was not high enough where he could stand up straight, and not wide enough that he could lie down entirely. Further to that, Sindhi ibn Shaykh shackled the Imam with iron weights to where they describe and they say that at times we would see this madloom. He would go into sajda and not have the energy to be able to sit up from his sajda because of the severity of the conditions and the heaviness of the weights. To which point the Imam began to cry out, "O Allah, I had asked you for this time, but now they have abused me such. I ask you to release me from this prison." In this condition, one of the companions came to see the Imam, Ali ibn Suwaid, and he said, "Yabna Rasulullah, when will the faraj come? We are desperate at our separation from you." Imam al-Kadhim replies, "Oh Ali, in 3 days' time will come the faraj. Gather our Shia on the bridge of Baghdad, and in 3 days I will see you there." Ali ibn Suwaid, with happiness, would walk through the town of Baghdad. "I give you glad tidings, al-bishara, al-bishara. Be pleased, Imam al-Kadhim will join us in 3 days." The Shia wore their finest of clothes and gathered on the bridge of Baghdad in 3 days. In that time, Mal'un Sindhi poisoned the food of Imam al-Kadhim. Imam al-Kadhim's forehead became overcome with the sweat of death. His breathing became shallow. His eyes began to open and close. His hands and feet began to move from the severity of the poison. When his breathing came to a stop, the soul of Imam al-Kadhim left this world. Sindhi took the Imam in chains, took 4 ummal and servants and said, "Carry him out to the bridge of Baghdad." When the Shia had gathered, they saw 4 servants carrying a pier, upon it a body, and they called out and said, "Hada Imam al-Rafida. This is the Imam of the rejectors. Whoever wishes to see him should come now." Imam Musa Kadhim was brought before his Shia in that condition, where they said that we still saw the chains upon the hands and feet of Imam al-Kadhim. Ali ibn Suwaid had found a Christian doctor. He says, "O Christian man, look to this person and tell me, did he die of natural causes or did something happen to him?" This Christian man looks at Imam al-Kadhim's body. He says, "O Ali, does this one not have any family here that I should talk to?" Ali ibn Suwaid, seeing the ghurbat of Imam al-Musa al-Kadhim, says, "O Christian, tell me we are his family. We will answer for him." Ali ibn Suwaid says, "I tell his family to seek retribution. This one has been poisoned by a very severe poison in his body." They refused to let the Shia take the body of Imam al-Kadhim until one of the cousins of Harun, Sulaiman, heard the noise in the city. He saw an old woman running frantically from the bridge of Baghdad. He says, "Oh old woman, why do you look as if your son has died?" She says, "Had it been my son, I am alive to cry over him. You see my condition such because the one who has died is the son of Zahra, and they have dishonored him such, and there is no one to remove his body." Sulaiman says, "He is from us, the Quraysh." She says, "He is from the children of Rasulullah." Sulaiman says, "Al-Khijala, Al-Khijala, the disgrace that the children of Rasulullah should be killed in this way." He sends the young men and sons of his house. He says, "Take this body with honor, and I command you, should anyone disrespect you or refuse you to take the body of Musa al-Jafar, fight him and kill him until you can give honor to this person." "Oh Sulaiman, Where were you? Where were the Muslimin in Karbala? There were no Shia in Karbala. There was no one to claim to be the relative of Imam al-Hussain. They trampled his body in the field of Karbala. They left him in such a condition that Sayyidah Zainab was forced to pass him in such a way. She threw herself from the camel, went to her brother and said, "Oh brother, it is our tradition that when a sister leaves her brother, she kisses his cheeks. But oh my dear Hussein, you have no cheeks for me to kiss." Sayyidah Zainab in that moment kisses the cutthroat of Abu Abdullah and bids farewell. ألا لعنة الله على القوم وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون رضا بقضائه وتسليما لأمره. ماتم حسين.
ہے امام ہنا ہاں یہ کیا ہو گیا موسی کاظم غریب لاتے ہیں ہم مال جو کس کا جنازہ ہے یہ ہاں یہ کیا ہو گیا موسی کاظم غریب لاشیں مقدس رہی جس کے بغداد پہ کوئی نہ پرسا ہوا موسی کاظم غریب بیداد بنی فاطمہ پر صبح مسا ہے کنبہ میرا دنیا میں اجڑنے کو بسا ہے یہ میت فرزند رسول دو سرا ہے یہ لاش بے وارث بابا رضا ہے آزادارو سر پیٹو کے یہ ماتم آقا ہے محبو طیب بنے طیب طیب کا جنازہ ہے محبو آئی فلک سے صدا موسی کاظم غریب آئی فلک سے صدا موسی کاظم غریب قتل ہوئے بے خطا موسی کاظم غریب 13 برس قید تھے اور تھے بیمار بھی 13 برس قید تھے اور تھے بیمار بھی تھی نہ دوا بے خزاں موسی کاظم غریب آئی فلک سے صدا موسی کاظم غریب قتل ہوئے بے خطا ریب پول پہ لاشا پڑا کوئی نہیں پوچھتا پول پہ لاشا پڑا کوئی نہیں پوچھتا ہے یہ امام ہدا موسی کاظم غریب آئی فلک سے صدا موسی کاظم غریب قتل ہوئے بے خطا موسی کاظم غریب لاتے ہیں ہم مال جو کس کا جنازہ ہے یہ لاتے ہیں ہم مال جو کس کا جنازہ ہے یہ ہائے یہ کیا ہو گیا موسی کاظم غریب آئی فلک سے صدا موسی کاظم غریب قتل ہوئے بے خطا موسی کاظم غریب مقصد و مقصود ہو نصرت ذاکر کرو مقصد و مقصود ہو نصرت سب کی کرو اے میرے حاجت روا موسی کاظم غریب آئی فلک سے صدا موسی کاظم غریب آئی فلک سے صدا موسی کاظم غریب قتل ہوئے بے خطا موسی کاظم غریب
ہاشم کے گھرانے پر ایک تازہ مصیبت ہے ہاشم کے گھرانے پر ایک تازہ مصیبت ہے دنیا سے ابو طالب جاتے ہیں قیامت ہے ہاشم کے گھرانے پر ایک تازہ مصیبت ہے ہاشم کے گھرانے پر ایک تازہ مصیبت ہے دنیا سے ابو طالب جاتے ہیں قیامت ہے اشک آنکھوں سے احمد کی جاری ہے جدائی ہے اشک آنکھوں سے احمد کی جاری ہے جدائی ہے امو کی حمایت سے محروم کی نوبت ہے ہاشم کے گھرانے پر ایک تازہ مصیبت ہے ہاشم کے گھرانے پر ایک تازہ مصیبت ہے دنیا سے ابو طالب جاتے ہیں قیامت ہے سورۃ البقرۃ الفاتحہ
السلام علیکہ یا رسول اللہ یا محمد ابن عبداللہ السلام علیکہ یا امیر المؤمنین یا علی ابن ابی طالب السلام علیکہ یا خدیجۃ الکبریٰ ام المؤمنین السلام علیکہ یا فاطمۃ الزہراء سیدتی نساء العالمین السلام علیکہ یا حسن ابن علی المجتبی السلام علیکہ یا ابا عبداللہ یا حسین ابن علی الشہید بکربلا السلام علیکہ یا علی ابن الحسین زین العابدین السلام علیکہ یا محمد ابن علی الباقر السلام علیکہ یا جعفر ابن محمد الصادق السلام علیکہ یا موسیٰ ابن جعفر الکاظم السلام علیکہ یا علی ابن موسیٰ الرضا السلام علیکہ یا محمد ابن علی الجواد السلام علیکہ یا علی ابن محمد الہادی السلام علیکہ یا حسن ابن علی العسکری السلام علیکہ یا حجت اللہ ابن الحسن یا صاحب الزمان السلام علیکہ یا شریک القرآن السلام علیکہ یا کعبۃ الایمان السلام علیکہ یا خلیفۃ الرحمن السلام علیکہ یا امام الانس والجان ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.